Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
This might be the most attractive card.
This ain't massive, bro. This ain't massive.
Massive.
Like, no one knows Tehran, and Alicia's not from Texas. This won't be a movie. We was just discussing that Jake taking these women to ESPN has been a hindrance for them. None of those women at all, Michaela Mayer included, have ever had a movie. Claressa puts on movies, like Clarissa's at the Tank level.
If what Nestor Gibbs is referring to is Claressa Shields' late 2024 biopic, The Fire Inside, the movie about her life, well, that movie was a flop, Nestor. It's not enough to just have a movie made about you. People have to watch it.
Just like it's not enough to be on pay-per-view. People have to buy it.
Released by Amazon MGM Studios, the biographical boxing drama grossed only about $1.23 million during its theatrical run against a multi-million-dollar budget.
Essentially meaning they spent more to make the movie than the movie made at the movies.
Despite strong reviews and positive word of mouth for its performances featuring Ryan Destiny as Olympic boxer Claressa Shields and Brian Tyree Henry as her coach, it failed to draw crowds to theaters.
So if you're going to talk about Claressa Shields' movie, if that is what Nestor was talking about, you have to tell the whole story. It's a movie that most people didn't watch. So what's the point in that?
We got to give her respect. She could put on a movie with the girl she just fought, Kay Scott. She got celebrities coming out for Kay Scott.
Yes, you surface level, bro. Stop being, see, you are hardcore, but then you magically. No, listen.
Nestor, if people didn't care to see a movie about Claressa Shields' life, why would they want to watch a movie about her fighting Kay Scott, who they don't know?
Haven't you seen what people were saying about Kay Scott before the fight and after?
You are hardcore.
Michaela did a big fight, and it didn't look like that. She even did a big fight with Alicia, and it didn't look like that.
No, bro. Bro. See, you too surface level, bro. You are hardcore.
You just gonna try and. You're just going to try and discredit that they are great promoters.
Who is they?
No, I'm not. I'm going to tell you the truth. I watched motherfucking Rolly and T.O. prelims while you was on that tremendous 10 speed, you and your wife somewhere on an island instead of doing your fight chat. I watched the fucking prelims, and there was nobody in that motherfucker. Let's be clear. Now, fast forward to Claressa prelims.
But there's never anyone in the prelims.
Okay, well, let me land. Now, let's go to Claressa's prelims. Ryan, that shit was packed. Why was it packed? Ray J was fighting. Orlando Brown was fighting. Tashiki was fighting.
And that's good promoting.
Yeah, Nesta, but you can't give Claressa the credit or Dimitri Salita the credit for an audience that was built on the Zeus network. People who turned up to see Ray J and Orlando Brown do whatever they were doing and all those Zeus network baddies, they weren't there for Claressa. So how do you give her and Dimitri the credit?
Do you think Brandy, the R&B singer, was there for any other reason than to support her little brother?
That's good promoting. Don't be mad. Okay. Don't be mad that Jake didn't set up Alicia to be a star and put her in front of the masses.
Bro, it's the circus, bro.
That's what we telling you, that he's got to promote better. Instead, he took the women off of a network where boxing fans existed, and we can spread the word with word of mouth. Listen, what I said in my monologue was real. I didn't know this fight was happening. And I'm not talking about Alicia. I'm talking about Michaela's. I'm talking about MVP as a promoter for women's boxing is doing horrible. Their fights keep just popping up.
The truth is somewhere in the middle, because there is something to what Mr. Gibbs is saying about MVP migrating over to ESPN.
The announcement of Alicia Baumgartner versus Alif Nurturan as a main event and as a card, I really like the card. I think it's a fantastic card, but calling it massive,
I wouldn't say that. I think only really hardcore boxing fans are enthused about it, and among hardcores, only a certain section of them actually watch the women, because MVP having a stable primarily comprised of women boxers, to some, is unappealing.
I still get those comments every so often from some guy who needs to let me know that he doesn't watch the girls, even though this channel is known for covering those stories. Better still,
having a stable primarily comprised of women boxers isn't everybody's cup of tea.
Where before, all of these women boxers were spread out throughout different promotional outfits that had different broadcast deals with different broadcasters, the sport actually got more exposure that way than all of them being under one umbrella, needing one promoter to be the one to get them out. That's not MVP's fault, but it just is what it is.
That doesn't even mean they're doing a bad job, because they managed to get 3.4 million people to watch Amanda Serrano's fight with Lucretia Manzur on TikTok.
And another 300,000 on YouTube.
So they do have some fresh, new ideas and other things that need to be worked on, though as it pertains to Claressa,
Nestor is basically saying that they're doing a better job promoting Claressa than MVP is doing promoting Alicia, but MVP hasn't had Alicia as long under the banner as Dimitri has had Claressa. He's been her promoter for her entire career.
Whereas MVP has only had Alicia for a few fights, thus I wouldn't rush the judgment on the job that they're doing, as only one of these two fighters is appearing on a nationally syndicated TV program, and it's not Claressa.
Generally speaking, a lot of the newfound attention that Claressa Shields has been getting has absolutely nothing to do with Dimitri Salita's brand of promotion.
Not really.
But her romantic relationship with Papoose that has allowed her to transition from just the boxing space to a more mainstream space.
And with that have come even more detractors and more content creators who are not fans of Claressa Shields. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows, Nestor. The pendulum swings both ways.
It's not all rosy for Claressa.
Just like it's not all rosy for Alicia and MVP. Men's middleweight news, Xander Zayas will return with Matchroom in February. Chris Mannix said Xander Zayas is planning a return in February. He's going to fight at 160 pounds. Zayas actually is going to be a Matchroom fighter for his next fight. It could be as a main event in Puerto Rico, or it could wind up on the undercard of a big show.
Matchroom's got a significant fight at 160 on September 4th with Emma Williams versus Vito Milnicki. Will Zayas fight the winner?
Could fight the winner in his debut at the weight. Could fight the loser, because the basic idea there is to ease Xander Zayas back into activity, into a negotiable situation where he's not in over his head debuting at the weight.
And I don't think he would be in over his head with either Ammo Williams or Vito Milnicki, whoever wins or loses. I believe that Xander has shown enough that he is a cut above the both of them.
Ahead of the Jaron Ennis fight, I stated that Xander Zayas could afford to lose that thing a bit more than Boots, because Boots is some years older.
Xander doesn't have as much hype around him as Boots Ennis, so that if Boots would have been the one that lost, the descent would have been a lot harder.
That bubble bursting, whereas Xander, he's younger, he's got more time to rebuild, he's got those loyal Puerto Rican fight fans that stand by their own in victory and defeat, so that Xander losing is hardly the end, and he could do very well for himself in today's middleweight division that is primarily comprised of junior middleweights that moved up in weight, just like what he's doing. Carlos Adames, Erislandy Lara, Tim Kazoo,
Jesus Ramos, Virgil Ortiz. Very soon you can expect that in the next calendar year, the focus is going to shift from Virgil fighting Boots to Virgil fighting Xander.
They're going to circle back to that conversation because we know Virgil's set to make his middleweight debut before this year is out, whereas Xander's going to make his early next year. They are practically on the same schedule, though I don't expect them to fight right away, fight each other. They may end up fighting for alphabet titles first, then circling back towards the center to each other, as they would both be the biggest names at the weight, even though they're new there.
There is loose talk about Virgil Ortiz fighting Jermel Charlo in November.
Erislandy Lara is still the WBA champion, and he's not getting any younger. Whether Virgil fights him or Xander fights him, somebody's going to, and somebody's going to beat him.
Things are about to liven up at 160 pounds the way they periodically do when the smaller, big-name fighters move up in weight, because that's what 160 is. It's a pit stop.
As part of the agreement, to fight Jaron Ennis, Matchroom gets to borrow Xander Zayas for at least one fight before they send him back to Top Rank, back in the winner's bracket.
Square deal.
For Top Rank it is, as they don't have to be the ones to pay for Xander's next fight. Matchroom is going to do that, and by the time he's done, they send him back to you in the winner's bracket, so it works out for everybody.
All in all, I think Xander Zayas, given his size and his youth, he's going to be okay at 160 pounds. Maybe it turns out to be Xander's best weight, and I look forward to seeing him back in the ring.
Men's super middleweight news, a quote-unquote terrible message. Jacob Bank on the WBO's handling of the Janibek situation. The 25-year-old Danish fighter has won all 3 fights this year, with WBO champion Hamza Shiraz in his crosshairs. However, the WBO recently reinstated previously banned former IBF WBO middleweight champion Janibek Alimkanulai as their number 2 ranked fighter and mandatory challenger to Shiraz. Canelo Alvarez, who fights WBC champion Christian Mabili at the end of October, is the top-ranked contender, but will depart from the rankings after contesting for another sanctioning body belt. Diego Pacheco, he sits at number 3, while Bank sits at number 4. The move doesn't sit well with Bank for many reasons. It's actually not even the shortened suspension that bothers me the most, although that decision is completely impossible to understand in itself. Bank, 20-0 with 11 KOs, tilt the ring.
It's not that hard to understand.
Either you receive a suspension for a doping violation or you don't. Changing the length of that suspension halfway through is extremely unusual and raises a lot of questions.
In the case of Janibek Alimkanulai, I think those questions already have answers, and we've already been all through this.
The bigger issue is that the WBO has effectively rewarded him. They've put him straight back at the top of the rankings and immediately made him the mandatory challenger. That's where this becomes completely wrong. It isn't just about me or Hamza. It affects every fighter who worked their way up the rankings fairly. Let Janibek come back 1 or 2 fights and prove that he's back as a clean athlete after serving his punishment. That's how sport is supposed to work. Instead, he serves a reduced suspension and is rewarded with the division's biggest opportunity. That sends a terrible message to fighters worldwide who believe in a clean sport. What surprises me the most is that none of the major boxing media outlets have really questioned this decision.
There's 1 or 2 reasons for that, I think. One is that the situation isn't as hard to understand as Jacob Bank makes it out to be, and 2, by now they're used to it.
While the decision is frustrating for Bank and his team, they are moving forward and will close out their breakout year with 1 more fight, hinting that it will be yet another overseas assignment. I've had some very positive discussions with Primetime Boxing, who've had productive talks with Spencer Brown and Gold Star Promotions, he said. It's a good plan, but not something I'm ready to reveal publicly just yet. Meanwhile, Bank's promoter, Casper Holgerson of Primetime Boxing, is also disappointed with how he perceived his fighter has been treated after remaining loyal to the sanctioning body. It's incredibly frustrating because this isn't the first time, he said. When Hamza Shiraz was fighting for the vacant WBO title, the WBO also found a way to avoid Jacob Bank. Just 2 days after Jacob stopped William Skull on January 31st, they suddenly announced the Shiraz versus Bejic fight. The explanation was that the fight had to be finalized before Jacob faced Skull because it supposedly needed to happen as quickly as possible. It didn't take place until May 23rd. People can draw their own conclusions from that.
I have.
And now this happens. So yes, we're both frustrated and deeply disappointed by the WBO's actions. Jacob has been incredibly loyal to the WBO throughout his career, winning several youth and regional titles, following their path and climbing the rankings the right way. This is the reward he gets. Our position in the Janibek case is very clear. The WBO is making a serious mistake. Bringing a fighter back after a suspension is one thing, but reducing a doping suspension they imposed itself, and then immediately rewarding that fighter with mandatory status sends exactly the wrong message. It tells fighters around the world that a doping violation doesn't just have limited consequences, it can actually be followed by a shortcut to a world title opportunity. That is not the message any sanctioning body should be sending if it truly stands for fairness and a clean sport.
So here's what I think. It should have actually been Jacob Bank that Hamza Shiraz fought in his last fight. not Bejic. That should have been Shiraz versus Bank.
Jacob earned his opportunity, in my opinion, knocking out a former champion in William Skull. Though, as it pertains to Janibek and how the WBO have handled that, I see no fault in their reasoning, even if Jacob Bank does and Hamza Shiraz does.
Because Janibek, unlike so many other fighters before him that found themselves in this exact same situation, provided medical documentation that fully explains what happened.
And if you've been paying attention to all of these doping cases in the last decade of boxing, you'll know that you don't normally get a reasonable explanation for what happens. Whereas in his case...
Very easy to understand. He had an emergency room visit. He was subsequently prescribed medication for said visit, and that is corroborated by medical documentation.
What happened with Janibek Alimkhanuly is not left to the imagination like what happened with Conor Benn or Ryan Garcia.
So many other fighters.
Janibek Alimkhanuly, in my opinion, and the WBO's, has provided adequate explanation for what happened, and that's why the suspension was shortened, and that's why he secured a cushy spot at a new weight. The newly minted WBO champion wasn't happy about the decision. I think it's a joke, Sheeraz said on the Ariel Helwani show. I think what the WBO has done here is disgraceful to the sport of boxing. What you're essentially doing is rewarding someone who popped, and also while he's serving a ban. It doesn't matter if it's the first time. Being popped is being popped. The sport we're in, you're risking your life. Shiraz was hoping to land a big fight before the end of this year. The 27-year-old stopped Alem Bejic in 2 rounds to win the vacant WBO title on May 23rd. Alexander Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven card in Egypt. In his first title defense, he looked listless as he won a majority decision against Simon Zakunherbe on July 25th. Alimkhanuly is a big name. Having steamrolled his competition, however, he hasn't been seen since stopping Anue Namasenge in the 5th round in April of last year. At the moment, Shiraz is still mulling over his options. The fighter side of me, my ego, is saying, listen, crack on with it. Just get in there and get the job done, Shiraz said. But me being a man who has morals and believes in being a clean athlete, it contradicts everything. It's something that me and my team will have to sit down and see what we're doing. Meanwhile, Alimkhanuly is annoyed by Shiraz's complaints. He wants his rival to zip his lip, throw his gloves on, and step into the ring with him. Why doesn't he just say, let's fight? This is a sport, Alimkhanuly said on his X account. If you call yourself a champion, then prove it. Step up, fight the best, and show everyone what you're made of. Don't sit on a podcast whining and crying about it. Get in the ring and fight.
I can only tell you now what I told you before.
If it were Canelo Alvarez instead of Janibek Alimkhanuly that Hamza were ordered to fight, I don't think he'd be complaining about that. But Canelo, like Janibek Alimkhanuly, had a doping fiasco.
Got caught with a banned substance in his system, the same as Janibek, and he was hardly punished for it.
Even if that was many years ago, the point is, I don't really think Hamza is standing on principle here. It's selective outrage.
It's not the doping scandal that you're mad about, it's that this guy is a high-risk, low-reward, and now he's your problem.
It's what it really is. Though after 2 consecutive layup fights, one for a vacant alphabet title, I feel like it's about time that Hamza Shiraz fought a live one. And if that's Janibek Alimkhanuly, it's Janibek Alimkhanuly. They couldn't keep him out forever.
And as stated, he's provided a better explanation than most other fighters I've seen in this same situation.
So it's time to fight.